Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Digging into the Pet Industry, our live video show. I'm Nancy Hassel from American Pet Professionals, and I am so excited to have our guest today, Ginny Munger-Kahn, I hope I said that right, of LI-Dog, the president of LI-Dog. Hey, Ginny.
Hi, Nancy. It's great to be here.
So good to see you. So, Ginny, you and I have known each other for many, many years now. You are one of our original members of American Pet Professionals way back in the day. So I'm really excited to have you on. We are live right now on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So wherever you're watching from, thank you for watching. And if you're listening to our podcast, which will air this Thursday, thank you for listening in. So Ginny, I'm happy to have you here today. We jump right in here on digging into the pet industry. So let me ask you this. Your background was in or is in financial journalism, right? You were a writer doing all the things. Mm-hmm. So how the heck did you get into the pet industry with LI-Dog?
Well, I have to say that I really loved my career as a freelance financial journalist. It was really interesting. I wrote about mutual funds, 401k plans, personal finance, and investments in general. And it was wonderful. You know, I was always learning new things. You know this, Nancy, as a journalist. You get to talk to interesting people, and you get to learn new things all the time. And you know, it's just really stimulating. However, I have always loved dogs, and LI-Dog just kind of pulled me in. I was a regular at a unofficial, we'll call it unofficial, dog park here on the North Shore of Long Island, and as an unofficial dog park, the county would periodically send park rangers over to issue summonses for having our dogs off leash. And after one particularly bad incident with a park ranger in which he declared this is war, we decided that we really needed to do something about it. And so we wrote to the county executive, and we told him there needed to be a wholesale attitude change in Suffolk County as far as dogs and parks. And we then started working with then Suffolk County legislator Steve Stern on creating dog parks throughout the county. Steve had just come back from San Francisco, where off-leash areas have been around for a long time. Yeah. And he'd seen how wonderful they are and successful they are. And so he got it right away. And he introduced legislation in 2007. And in May 2007, what we call the 5 New Dog Parks bill passed the legislature unanimously.
Wow. And what year was that?
That was in May 2007.
Okay. So when did LI-Dog form? Like when you guys wrote that letter and you said, we got to get unified and get in touch with the legislators and do something about this.
Yeah. So that incident occurred in 2006. However, in 2004, we created what was then known as the Huntington Dog Owners Group as a corporation. We incorporated it as a New York State corporation, and then changed the name to the Long Island Dog Owners Group. And then in 2006, we were approved by the IRS as a nonprofit organization. So it's really been since 2004 that we've been a formal organization. The group of dog owners that I hung out with at the park, where I was a regular, had actually formed, you know, into a group of an informal group of dog owners to try to work with the county to create an off-leash area there, even before that. So it was a long process. You know.
Yeah. Wow. So I know you've been around for a while doing some incredible things, which I love, right? And helping. So can you tell us why dog friendliness is so important to you and to our communities, whether you're here on Long Island or across the country?
I think that, well, academic studies have shown that dogs in public places are a socializing influence. So that, which means that people, perfect strangers, will talk to each other. because of their mutual affection and interest in dogs. So they're a way to build communities, certainly in parks and elsewhere. I can't tell you how many of my good friends here on Long Island I've met through my dogs. I mean, and not just LI-Dog, but just walking my dogs in my neighborhood, all sorts of ways. So dogs are a way to bring people together, and they're a besides community building, they build friendlier places. People are, well, not always, but generally people are more accommodating, especially if they have a mutual interest and affection for dogs. It's a real, and dogs are so important in people's lives now. They're an important part of people's families, that people want to be able to take their dogs with them if they're going to be eating at an outdoor restaurant or something.
Yeah.
They certainly, when they're going to a park, want to be able to take their dog with them.
Yes. And so speaking of parks, tell us some of your accomplishments with LI-Dog over the years.
Yeah, so by working with elected officials here on Long Island, we have gotten 9 dog parks, 1 official off-leash beach, and now dozens of trails open for on-leash dog walking. And when we started out in the early 2000s, it was really hard to find places where you could walk your dog, even on leash, without getting harassed or without confronting signs at the park entrance, with a picture of a dog and a big, red line through it, which I can't tell you how discouraging that is.
Yeah.
And it's not right,
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think here in Suffolk County, guys, if you're watching, we're on Long Island, New York. In Suffolk County, it is obviously more dog friendly than Nassau. And I'm going to ask you a question about that. But it's hard work, right? To work with politicians to get bills passed that will make a difference for dog parents. Can you tell us a little bit about that hard work since you've been at this for so long?
Yeah, it does. It takes persistence and time. It takes, organizing dog owners, first of all, is really important. That's kind of the first step. And we do that with petitions, with email, with our social media, with our website, so that, it's not just 1 or 2 people asking for access to a park. It's dozens of people asking for access to a park. And then, then we identify the elected officials in whose jurisdiction that park that we're interested in, or area, or whatever it is that we're interested in, whose jurisdiction it is. And we'll approach that elected official and tell them about our interest in it. And it's really interesting, Nancy, because I would say that over the last 10 years or so, it has become a lot easier when we are approaching elected officials to get them on board right away. When we first started out, there was hostility towards, providing access to parks or whatever. Today, so many more people have dogs, including elected officials, and they know how precious they are, how much we love them and want to be able to take them elsewhere, everywhere with us. So it's become a lot easier in the last 10 years. And I have to tell you that, the elected officials, we've worked with elected officials, Democrats, Republicans, dogs, and access to parks is not a partisan issue. We have support on both sides, that great support on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, it's definitely not a party issue for sure. I used to have a button that said "My dog votes," and I used to take my old dog Max behind me every time I voted, because the places that we would go vote at the time were dog friendly.
Right.
So I thought it was hilarious, because it's true. I would vote for dog friendly candidates and animal friendly candidates, people that were going to make a difference. And especially on that local level, it doesn't matter to the party. You really want to pay attention to what they're doing, right?
Absolutely.
So it's important. So what is one of the issues that you're currently working on right now?
So right now, our main campaign is trying to get access to New York State beaches. every time at this year when the weather starts turning warmer, although that's not true today,
Right, I know.
but we start getting emails from people, or people start posting on our Facebook group, where can I take my dog to the beach? And
Right.
we invariably have to say, well, we live on an island, but actually practically nowhere.
Yeah, right.
other than the east end of Long Island, which is very dog friendly.
Right, right.
Those towns out there have really done a great job. So this isn't right. Again, we pay taxes that support these public parks. Where these beaches are located, and yet the New York State Office of Parks denies access to dogs to all their beaches, all their beaches.
Right.
They own the New York State Office of Parks. I'm sorry, they don't own. They manage 14,000 acres of parkland that have shoreline access.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of land to deny access to so many people who pay taxes that support that. It's just not right.
It is, and I agree. So, as you were saying before, like San Francisco and other areas of the country, Florida, they have like a ton of places where you can bring your dog. Long Island's linear shoreline, which is including Queens and Brooklyn. Yes, I know it's New York City, but you guys are on Long Island. I hate to tell you. They always want to deny that, but is an estimated 1,600 miles. That's all the way around. I was shocked when I looked that up because I was like, whoa, I didn't realize it was that much. And almost 1,200 square miles in Nassau and Suffolk counties, right?
Right.
And yet there's so much limitation on beaches that you can go with. And I'm curious because every year we see, like, if there's a concert at the park or if there's like a festival at the park, and the amount of trash, no dogs, the amount of absolute garbage and trash littering our beaches, littering our roadways, littering the parking lots from a festival that humans went to. And I'm always like, I pick up my dog's poop everywhere we go and are very respectful and all of that. And most dog owners on Long Island are. And I always think, what the heck? Why are you banning dogs from coming to this park when humans are making a bigger mess? When humans are encroaching on wildlife with their big long lens cameras to get that picture of the snowy owl to flush it out, drives me crazy, right?
Yeah.
So why do you think it is that they really have banned dogs from certain state parks and other areas on the beaches?
It's a legacy. It's old policies that have been in effect for a really long time. They were put into effect when dogs were relegated to the backyard, and and people didn't view them as important family members, and over, like I said, at least the last 20 or 30 years, things have really changed. People expect to be able to take their dogs with them, especially when they go to a public park. I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, and I never had an issue with taking my dog, certainly on leash, for a walk in a park. When I moved up here to Long Island, I was shocked at all the no dogs allowed signs on public parks. And it drove me crazy. And that's why I got involved in LI-Dog.
Yeah. It's incredible. And, one of the parks that you really had some great success with which seems so silly because it's right in a village where you live, and Heckscher Park in Huntington, I didn't know it wasn't dog friendly until you brought up the issue, because I'm like, aren't all outdoor parks dog friendly?
Exactly.
And I know that you got them to change that, and there's more geese poop there than anything else.
Yes.
But it's a beautiful park, and I took my Cody, I know you have a Cody as well, up there, and we walked around, and everybody was friendly and everybody was respectful. And so I know that that was a really great accomplishment, getting that passed. But I want to ask you about Nassau County. So in Suffolk, I used to live on the East End, take my dog everywhere. There are certain limitations, like at Montauk State Park. You can go in certain areas on the beach, but you can't go by the lighthouse, right?
Right.
You can hike in all the trails. So in my mind, that's pretty dog friendly, considering it's a state park. But, I'd always hear from my friends in Nassau County and they'd be like, we can't go anywhere with our dogs. I'm
Mhm,
like, what are you talking about?
mhm.
Like, you can't just walk in like a public park outside, like from the sidewalk into the park.
Right.
No, no dogs allowed. So,
Yeah.
I know three great places, right? We all know those great places in Nassau that you can hike.
Mhm.
But I want to know, what do you think the deal with Nassau is? I know it's not a big county. It's probably one of the highest taxed counties in the United States, but yet
Right.
it's super undog friendly.
Right, right. Yeah, there are a lot of Nassau County parks where you cannot walk your dog even on leash. And
Right.
again, it's not right. What I would suggest people do, I mean, it would be really good if there would be at least 2 or 3 people who really care about this, who could organize a campaign to write the county executive and their elected officials in the Nassau County legislature, and
Yeah.
ask them to take this issue up. That's what it takes. It takes, dog owners coming together, maybe 2 or 3 people who really kind of lead the effort, and asking elected officials to make this policy change. They're the ones who
Yeah.
have the power to do that. And if dog owners can demonstrate through a petition that they want, that there are thousands of people in the county who want access to them, who want greater access to the parks, then elected officials will listen. And
Yeah.
you have to be smart about, not asking for access to sensitive wildlife areas. You don't want to, you
Of
don't want to
course.
ask for access to, playgrounds and places where people take their kids and stuff like that. But there
Right.
are, in Nassau County has about 5,000 acres of public parks. There are plenty of acres of Nassau County parks that would be appropriate for people with dogs.
Right. And I know you guys have had success in getting areas opened up to dog runs, where it's a
Mhm.
enclosure where people can let their dogs run off leash. I know you guys have done a really great job with that. And I think all that advice is really valuable for people even outside of the New York area. Maybe you're across the country in your town it's not dog friendly.
Mhm.
And I would also, I'm always thinking business wise, right? I would also look and see what
Mhm.
pet businesses are in your town,
Mhm.
whether it's a
Mhm.
small mom and pop shop or a big manufacturing company, and
Mhm.
find out, hey, can they lend a hand in,
Mhm.
figuring out how to get things more pet friendly? There are a lot of companies that have already doing that,
Mhm.
and it might be a really good wherewithal to
Mhm.
encourage those petition signings and letter writings.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. If you can put a flyer in a store and with a QR code to your petition or whatever,
Yeah.
you can get a lot of people to support whatever you're looking for.
So I know you said it's been easier now because more people are viewing dogs as, an integral part of our lives, and everybody has dogs no matter what you're doing or pets. But what do you think the biggest challenge is now to get towns and cities to understand dog friendliness areas downtown and why that matters in their downtowns?
It's again, I would say it's the old issues of, people won't pick up after their dogs,
Yeah.
or the dogs will be off leash or whatever. I mean, those are the 2 main concerns we always hear if people are going to raise objections. Or, again, that there are places where dogs are not appropriate. And certainly we understand that.
Yeah.
But I think that if you can assure people that if they put in rules and regulations to say people must pick up after their dogs, and if they put in stations that make it
Hmm.
easier for people to get
Yep.
bags if they forget it or whatever, and you make sure that people keep their dogs on leash where they're supposed to be on leash. I think that helps. I have to tell you that you mentioned our opening up Heckscher Park in Huntington Village, which was a community park that we wanted access to for many years, and
Yeah.
constantly were turned down because we were told it's too busy, there are too many people there. It's just not going to work. What was really key to getting access to that park was not only an online petition that a fellow dog owner started. We didn't start it, but somebody else did. So that, again, elected officials saw there was a lot of interest in this issue. But that once a resolution was introduced with a pilot program that was started there, we were responsible, LI-Dog was responsible for doing a public education campaign there. And basically what that meant was going into the park on a regular, we had at least, maybe 10 people who were part of we called ourselves park ambassadors. There were probably at least 10 of us who would go into the park whenever we were there with our dogs and hand out flyers about how important it is to pick up after your dog, keep your dog on a leash. If you see someone who's disabled, move off the path, all these kind of responsible dog ownership kind of practices. And the councilwoman who sponsored the resolution to allow dogs in this park was very, very good at responding to objections whenever she got emails from somebody in the town who said, hey, there are dogs sitting on the benches and I don't like that. So we would put in a new rule. Okay, no dogs on benches. So she was very responsive at dealing with people's concerns about it. And the pilot program was so successful, it ran for about a year, not quite a year, that by the time the vote came in the town, before the town board to make the pilot program permanent, not a single person spoke in opposition to it.
Wow. Yeah, that's such a great way to do things. I remember that. I remember seeing your posts. And I also think, giving a flyer with common sense things to us, there's a lot of new pet parents out there that may not realize, oh, I should move out of the way if somebody's coming with maybe not even, in a wheelchair, or somebody that's elderly, somebody with a lot of kids. Like, you might think, well, they can move. No, you move out of the way, put your dog on the other side, put your dog in a sit stay. Like, to me, it's like such common sense, right?
Right.
But it's just kind of the same type of thing. So I love that you did that. And that is such a great advice. And you're offering it with kindness. You're not offering it with, like, put your dog on a leash, or do you have a poop bag? Like, because some people get really erratic about it. And it's like, okay, calm down. My dog is on a leash. I have a poop bag. So, I mean, you don't see that as much anymore. I think most dog owners are really respectful, but I think that little bit of education really helps. And it also shows how diligent that you guys did that for a year and that you had 10 volunteers helping. That's incredible.
Yeah. That pilot program really taught us how important public education was, continuing to get the message across about responsible dog ownership. It really helped a lot. And if sometimes, when it snows or whatever, people are not so diligent about picking up. If there was a situation where there was orphan poops, as we like to call them, in the park, we would organize a cleanup, and we would do the cleanup and then again, hand out the flyers and stuff like that. So we were very proactive in making sure that pilot program worked.
Yeah. And that it's so funny because I didn't tell you that I was going to ask you that, but that was going to be my next question. How can we help educate dog parents to respect the parks, trails, and beaches? I mean, I think it's just kind of again, it's common sense, but you're always going to have somebody that is like a bad egg that doesn't care. And that goes for anything in life, right? So as an organization, you can only do so much. I had an instance the other day in a dog friendly park where the dog was probably young, maybe 110 pounds, huge. I was thinking he looked like Snuffleupagus. He was just like this big, hairy dog. I don't even know what breed it was. It was maybe a doodle, maybe something else. He was black. And the dog was beautiful, but not really that dog friendly. And the owner was clueless. And I had to move Cody over and put him in a sit and stay. So he was like, oh, he doesn't want to play, meaning my Cody. And I'm like, no, that's not why I'm moving over. But I didn't say anything. I just let him pass. So that education is really important for people that are thinking about doing that. And I think that's really great to incorporate that education in your process of trying to get more places that are dog friendly.
Yeah,
really great.
We're always, especially when we're working on a particular campaign or whatever, or a particular park or whatever, we're always saying, please, especially now, make sure to clean up after your dog. On leash,
Yeah, it's not easy, but I think most people do get it, right? And
yes.
Like I said, I'm more upset if I see garbage in the trails, like water bottles, plastic,
Right.
stuff that's left behind by humans. And if somebody leaves an orphan poop, I'm like, that's kind of gross. Why don't you pick it up? But
Right.
I'm more upset about the garbage that somebody left behind, because then that's just fully polluting the area.
Right.
So let me ask you this. We know that like business like wineries, breweries, and some restaurants and outdoor dining, right, which we passed, which is amazing, which is kind of mind-boggling that you couldn't sit outside with your dog.
Exactly.
And that more and more hotels are really welcoming dogs. What would you say to the other businesses that are not? I get some people don't want to have dogs at their establishment. I understand that.
Mhm.
But I think it's lost revenue. What do you think?
Yeah, it is lost revenue. When the dogs and outdoor dining areas bill passed several years ago, I also was so surprised and thrilled that it passed.
Yeah.
It was just great. So, people used to sit outside with their dogs and, get harassed or whatever. But once the bill passed, a lot more businesses saw that it would attract a lot more people. And now, if you go to like Miracle Mile or Huntington Village or certainly Northport Village, you go to these little villages, and there's a water bowl outside. All these
Yeah.
businesses, or outside the restaurant. And it's clear that they are welcoming people with dogs. Again, like you said, Nancy, there are people, including proprietors of restaurants, who might not like dogs or might
Yeah.
be concerned that, about having dogs in their establishment. That's okay. I'm okay with it. There are
Yeah.
so many other people, businesses, who realize, what a large proportion of the population dog owners are. It's at
Yeah.
50% of households now.
Yeah, it used to be so difficult to even like if you traveled, get a dog, because our dogs are big, right? Get a hotel room
Right.
that wasn't limited to 30 pounds and under.
Yes.
And,
Right.
it was really crazy because I'm like, I'm at a pet event with the sponsored hotel and I had Cody with me, like a pet industry event, and it said 30 pounds and under. And I'm like, I'm already here. What am I going to do? You guys, and there was no issue, but it's just, I also do get that, some establishments do not want pets or dogs at their places. And again, it goes back to being a responsible dog owner, keeping your dog, on a 6-foot lead, if your dog is like sporadic and like, crazy and not paying attention, or,
Right.
maybe nervous or any of that,
Right.
maybe don't go there. Don't
Right.
bring your dog there.
Right.
Personally, if I can't bring my dog to a winery or a brewery, I find one that's dog friendly, because there's so
Exactly.
many. Yeah.
Exactly. There are so many. I mean, it's really telling that a lot of really high-end high-end hotels
Yeah.
welcome people with dogs now. I mean, what
Yeah.
does that say? It says they know that these people, that they're going to attract a lot of people, a lot
Yeah.
of guests that way.
Yeah.
So
It's so crazy. The very first event that I brought my Cody to, I only had him for like maybe 6 weeks. And my Cody's very vocal, so you know that, right? He's very excited. Was his first like actual event that he got invited to. I was a tag along by somebody that I know,
that's
and said, "We're having an event on the rooftop of the Waldorf Astoria in New York City. Does Cody want to come?" And I'm like,
oh,
"Yeah, we want to come." It was literal white glove service in the elevator. Like I was like, Cody is like a bull in the china shop when we were walking through these marble gilded walls. I was like, don't touch anything. But on the rooftop, there were other dogs there. It was really funny. So I always think that's hilarious that like other, establishments don't let me in. I'm like, he's been to the Waldorf.
exactly. That's right. We don't need
Like,
to.
well, just kind of like, come on. He's been all over the place.
That's
But
right. That's
it's
right.
really funny. So let me ask you, I know LI-Dog has a lot of fun events that you guys organize all year long. I've been to a bunch of them.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you do outside of petitioning and getting beaches and dog parks built?
Yeah. Yes. We also, like you said, Nancy, put on a lot of dog-friendly events throughout the year. Some of the events are for our fundraising events and to get our name out there and our cause out there. Other of our events, like our pack walks, are really just to go out and enjoy the beautiful public parks, dog-friendly parks that we have here on Long Island. So we do a lot of events. People really enjoy coming to dog parties, you know.
Yep. The luau's are always a hit.
Luau, which we're going to do on June 11th. We're very excited about to be able to do that again. It's been since 2019, since
Wow.
yeah, three
Yeah.
years that we weren't able
Yeah.
to do it because of COVID. You know, people have so much fun bringing their. We do contests and games. We always have like for our Halloween event. My God, the costumes that people
Yeah.
themselves dressed up in and their dogs were just so impressive.
Yeah.
It was so creative. So we do events like that, which are, like I said, they're parties. But then, you know, once a month we do our pack walks, which personally I just really love.
Yeah.
And these are our group on leash walks in parks around Long Island that are dog friendly. You know, I think that's what's a little unique about them is that we have a group of volunteer pack leaders. This is about 8 or 9 of our volunteers who we usually go out at least a week or so before the actual pack walk itself and walk the trail, make sure we don't get lost.
Yeah.
Or that we won't lose anybody. And so we do that before the actual pack walk itself. And then on the day of the event, the pack leaders lead the walk. And these walks have become very popular. They usually attract at least 20, 30, sometimes 40 or 50 people.
Yeah, I feel like I've been on a few that have been like 50 or more. Yeah.
It's so much fun because you're meeting a lot of other dogs. You're meeting a lot of other people who love their dogs just like you do. You're out in these really nice parks. And you know what? And because we have pack leaders, we are able to introduce people to parks they might not already know, you know, and because they're going with a pack leader who's been there before, they're confident that they won't get lost.
Yeah, it's so true. And you know, I had heard of, you know, Kings Park's Bluff for years from other friends that lived in the area, but I had never been there. So it was because of LI-Dog that, you know, I went on that walk. I think we went around Nissaquag, but now we go there, you know, maybe every other month. It's one of my most favorite spots. And people are like, where are you? That's so beautiful. And that's the one thing I would encourage, no matter if you live on Long Island or anywhere else, is get out and find the parks near you with your dog. Don't just go to the same place, right?
Right.
Because your dog gets bored too.
That's right. Exactly.
Yep. And the Massapequa Preserve, I used to rollerblade through there back in the day, and I biked through there, but the wooded part of it was beautiful. So I did that with you guys. What was that, like in the fall, I think?
Yeah.
So it's a really great thing to do, to put together, and I appreciate it. And our Cody's and your Sophie, they finally got to meet in person or in dog.
Right. In dog.
You know, at one of the walks, we have a really cute picture of both the Cody's together. So it's so great to see them.
Yeah.
So what piece of advice would you say is the best piece of advice that you've had received while running LI-Dog, while being in the pet industry?
I don't, you know what? I have to tell you, Nancy, to be honest, that the way that we've been successful, the way we've learned to be successful has been really through trial and error, you know, and really we've kind of learned on our own. What are you know, when we started out here on Long Island, nobody was doing what we were doing. You know what? Now that you mention it, no, I did talk to several people in California, because California was the innovator of off-leash areas, and that's what we were really focused on in the early days. And I talked to people there who were really very helpful. And I would say that the best piece of advice I got was don't remember that elected officials care about their voters, about their constituents. That's what you have to emphasize, is that this is about people too. It's not about the dogs. It's about people who want to go out into parks with their dogs, you know, and that they vote, you know, that the people who you're telling, no, you can't have access to this park, they're not going to vote for you. You know, so I would say that was the best piece of advice that we got, was really focus on the people too. You know, don't just focus on the dogs, focus on the people, because they're the ones who elected officials will pay attention to.
Yeah, it's so true. And I say that a lot when we're talking about businesses. I'm like, until the dog has a little tag on their collar and they can go in and buy stuff and you just get charged, like you're dealing with the people, you're dealing with the pet parents. So focus on them and their needs as well. And I think that's such important and great advice. So how can people get involved with LI-Dog that are local?
If they're local, well, anybody can get involved with LI-Dog, but especially New Yorkers. Right now, we are happy to have anybody in New York State help us with our beach campaign, since this is a New York State legislation, since it's New York State legislation. And I would say that they should go to our website, to lidog.org. And on that website, you can join LI-Dog. That means basically get on our email list. Joining LI-Dog is free. We don't urge people to join. And if you get on our email list, then you'll get all the updates on our campaigns and our events as well. We also, people can also become involved by joining our meetup group, which is where we post all of our own events. And also our Facebook group is very active. We have more than 7,000, 8,000 participants on that group. So we are focused on our Instagram and Twitter accounts right now. So there are many ways to get hold of us right now.
Yeah, you got a lot of places to go to, and you guys are very active on all those places, which is really great because I'm in all those spots as well.
Yeah.
So, is there anything that you would like to add that I didn't ask you about LI-Dog or any initiatives?
Yeah. So right now, like I said, Nancy, our main focus is on this legislation that has been introduced into the New York State legislature to allow dogs in all New York State parks, including beaches. So we really need people to contact their New York State Assembly person and also their New York State senator. Let them know that they support access to parks, all parks, including beaches on Long Island and in New York State. And they can go to our website at lidog.org to get all the details and links to how to find who your state senator and assembly member is. We're also looking for businesses and other animal advocacy organizations to write memorandums of support for this legislation as well. So again, I would urge people to go to the website, look at all the details on what the legislation involves and everything, what the key messages are we're trying to get across to elected officials. And then if anybody has any questions, they can always email us at news@lidog.org. That's news@lidog.org with any questions on if they are interested in writing a memorandum of support in support of this legislation. So I would just say that really is important to us right now is getting this legislation in front of elected officials and getting their support for it. So hopefully it'll pass in this session.
Yeah, it's really incredible, Ginny. Even though it's LI-Dog, you're almost a New York State dog at this point with this bill, because that will affect anybody that owns a dog in New York State so that they can go to the New York State parks that usually don't allow dogs. I know some here on Long Island do, but I think that's really tremendous work that you guys are doing.
Thank you, Nancy.
All right, Ginny. Well, thank you so much for everything that you guys do to make our world more dog friendly and our parks and beaches and trails. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you in person soon and our dogs in dogs soon.
Exactly. I hope to see you on a pack walk soon, you and Cody.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Ginny, have a good rest of your day. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. It was really fun.